Craig, are we on?
We're on.
Call the Planning Commission meeting to order and welcome everybody to the meeting. Is there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda, but you have the final copy at your place.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Motion second to adopt the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I need approval of the minutes from June 28, 2012, or any additions or corrections. Neither hear them at this time. A motion second to approve the minutes of June 28, 2012. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? They are now official. Council members, Councilman Hunt. Anybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the commission, I'd like to say good evening. First, I just want to say, I'm not going to take up a lot of your time, that I appreciate that the consideration that the commission has given the mention at Fontenelle on this particular amendment. I think it's going to be another addition to the community. There's absolutely no resistance. Nobody has objected to it, and it's a very fine addition to the Fontenelle properties, not only to the Fontenelle properties, but to the community as a whole. I won't take up any more of your time. I just want to say thank you for your consideration, and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Todd.
Thank you, Chairman McLean, Commissioners. I'm Carter Todd, the council person for Green Hills, District 34. I'm here this afternoon to speak to you about item number 11 on your agenda, which is the proposed Village Green Apartments SP on Abbott Martin Road. I think most of y'all will remember I was here a couple months ago on a zoning change request for the Eddie Arnold property on Granny White Pike. That was a development that I thought made a lot of sense from an environmental standpoint. And I think you guys folks on the Planning Commission felt the same way. You approved it 9-4-0 against. I think this development is very similar in that it actually does some really good things and achieves a lot of important planning goals. It creates a walkable neighborhood. It provides a range of housing choices in Green Hills, which we need. And it gets a critical mass of people in Green Hills so that it helps the retail. It helps get the critical mass there for, you need enough people for mass transit to really work. So it does those things. However, just like the Eddie Arnold property, I think that this project, based on the emails I'm getting, and I'm not sure the developer's seeing the same emails I'm seeing, but I think this project is facing and will face a significant amount of opposition from the neighborhood. And simply stated, I think the folks in Green Hills kind of like it the way it is, want to leave it just the way it is, and there's a good argument for that, but I think also we need to look at smart planning every now and then. And I don't want to, let me jump back to the Eddie Arnold property just for a second, because I think that's an important case study for what's going to happen in Green Hills. When that matter got to the Metro Council on third reading, it had unanimous support of you all. It had my support, and it didn't even make it out of Councilman Claiborne's committee. In the old days with councilman courtesy, a bill like that I think had unanimous support of the Planning Commission and had the district council person behind it and was well thought out and progressive, you would think that would be passed. And I think in many ways this bill before you today is going to be a lot like that. If you look where this is right in the heart of Green Hills. There are a huge group of very influential people around it, and they're going to hire lawyers, most of the lawyers much better than I am, and hire lobbyists, and so I guess the reason I'm telling you this is just it's frustrating, and it's a fact of life, though. I will point out one important thing about this property. This is like I said, it's in a very strategic spot. I don't know if you will remember, but Council Member Jim Schulman and John Roxford, gosh, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, on the exact opposite side of the street, passed a UDO for the Bedford Commons area. And that, to me, that UDO was so important because it drew a bright line between the creep of the commercial and the multifamily in Green Hills into the kind of more traditional residential. And on the other side of the street, the developer here, if this becomes an SP, maybe this could be a similar bright line, and even though people may be against it, it could give them some comfort that this is where it stops and that it won't creep into any further into Green Hills. So that's something to think about. This proposal currently consists of 4 buildings with a total of 36 units. It's based on the current RM20 zoning they have. The developer could build up to 45 units without any change, so he has the right to do 9 more. This proposal, I think the way it's written, asks for 90 units. I think he's actually only asking for 82 units, which is an increase of just 37 more. But trust me, in Green Hills, that's enough to create tremendous concern from the neighbors. And you'll hear from some of them today, and then they'll probably really show up in front of the council. So in closing, I know I've rambled, but I would say that I'm for this project. But I do have some reservations based on additional information that could come out when the developer has his neighborhood meeting. He hasn't had a neighborhood meeting yet. He worked on a project like this 3 or 4 years ago and had a series of neighborhood meetings. This time there hasn't been a neighborhood meeting yet. The neighbors, I think, know about the project though, and there have been a lot of email traffic, but we'll have a neighborhood meeting probably within the next 10 days, and I think some things could come out then. And also, I haven't seen the traffic impact study, but I think Public Works has approved that now. But again, in closing, I would point out that even if I'm for this project and it receives your approval, based on what I've seen in the council recently, and I think Councilman Claiborne can also testify, I'm not sure that this project would even get approved by the council. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other council person that have overlooked? Yeah, I'm sorry. I knew there was somebody back there that was here earlier.
Good afternoon. I'm Berkeley Allen, and I'm one of the sponsors of the Midtown upzoning bill, and just wanted to thank you for your consideration of that and to say that I support that and hope that you will give it your support. I think it's currently on the consent agenda. Nashville is going to grow. There are going to be more people moving to Nashville, and it makes sense to put them on a corridor where there are lots of jobs. If they can live where their jobs are, then they don't have to get on the street in their cars at all. I think that it's an area that makes sense to concentrate growth. It's consistent with the community character plan that has already been passed. This will save us the trouble of doing it lot by lot by lot. I think it's a good comprehensive plan. There has been a number of public meetings, as you know, and the planning staff has been kind enough to listen to the concerns of the 3 council members who are closest to this process, and it incorporated our concerns into what they've done. So I would just ask for your support for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for attending our work session earlier.
That was informative.
Any other council members? Brenda, any items to be deferred?
There are a number of items for deferral. The first item is item number 1 on page 5 of the agenda. It is 24 Lincoln Street. It's a request to rezone from SP to R6 zoning for property located at 24 Lincoln Street, and the recommendation is to defer indefinitely. The next item is item 2. This is a request to rezone from RS5 to R6 for property located at 18 Fern Avenue, and the staff recommendation is to defer indefinitely. The next item, also on page 5, is item 3. This is a request for final plat approval to create 5 lots and a variance to the subdivision regulations for lot frontage on property located at 596 North DuPont Avenue, and the recommendation is to defer to the August 23rd, 2012 Planning Commission meeting. The next item is item 6 on page 6, and this is a request to amend the Metro Zoning Code to create a new land use called farm market and to add definitions for agricultural products, agriculture-related products, agricultural tourism, and farm market to permit farm market as a special exception use in the agricultural zoning districts and to permit agricultural tourism as an accessory use to a farm market, and the recommendation is to defer indefinitely. The next item is item 13 on page 8. This is a request for approval of a neighborhood landmark development plan for properties located at 609 and 611 Wedgwood Avenue, zoned R6, to permit a full-service restaurant. The recommendation is to defer to August 23rd, 2012 Planning Commission meeting. And the final item on the deferral list is item 19 on page 9. This is a request for final plat approval to create 2 lots on property located at 4100 Wyoming Avenue, zoned RS 7.5, and the recommendation is to defer to the August 23rd, 2012 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. The items that the staff has requested be deferred are items 1, 2, 3, 6, 13, and 19. There's a motion to defer those items. Motion second to defer those. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? They're now officially deferred. Any items on consent?
Yes, and before I get to the consent agenda, as information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with a decision made by the Planning Commission today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Planning Commission's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact independent legal counsel. Now on to the consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the Commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or the Commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda. The first item on the consent agenda is item 4 on page 6. This is a request to update the land use policy application, the LUPA document, by making it easier to locate, read, and understand information presented by text, tables, and graphics, removing outdated policies and zoning references, and updating it with current zoning district designations. And the staff recommendation is to approve. The next item is item 7. It's on page 7, and this is a request to amend the Mansion at Fontenelle Specific Plan District and for final site plan approval for properties located at 4105, 4125, and 4225 Whites Creek Pike to permit a single-family residence bed and breakfast inn and to amend the definition of a seasonal performance entertainment venue. And the staff recommendation is to approve the preliminary plan with conditions and disapprove without all conditions, and to defer the final site plan approval in order for stormwater requirements to be addressed. The next item is item 8 on page 7, and it's a request to rezone from commercial services to specific plan auto zoning and for final site plan approval for property located at 6115 Charlotte Pike to permit automobile sales used, automobile repair, wrecker services, and all other uses permitted by the MUL district. The staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. The next item is item 9 on page 7. This is a request to rezone from IWD to specific plan mixed use non-residential zoning and for final site plan approval for property located at 114 Powell Place and partially within the floodplain overlay district to permit retail, commercial, and light industrial uses. The staff recommendation is to approve with conditions, including revised conditions of the Public Works Department, and disapprove without all conditions. The revised conditions are at your place. The next item is item 10 on page 7, and this is a request to rezone from commercial services to specific plan auto and for final site plan approval for property located at 604 Gallatin Pike to permit automobile sales used and all uses permitted by the CS zoning district. The staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. The next item is item 12. This is a request to rezone from various zoning districts to the MULA, MUGA, MUIA, and ORIA zoning for various properties in Midtown between I-440 and I-40. And the staff recommendation is to approve with amendments. The next item is item 14. It's on page 8 of your agenda. It's a request for a variance from section 1-9.2 of the subdivision regulations to extend the preliminary approval to July 26, 2013 for Hermitage Creek subdivision approved for 11 single-family cluster lots. The staff recommendation is to approve the extension of the preliminary plat approval to July 2013. The next item is item 15. It's on page 9 of your agenda. This is a request to revise a preliminary plat approved for 408 single-family lots to permit the reduction in the overall unit count for the subdivision to 212 single-family lots located at 765 Preston Road and Preston Road unnumbered, zoned RS10 and RM9. And the staff recommendation is to approve with conditions. The next item, also on page 9, is item 16. This is a request for a variance from section 2-5.6 of the subdivision regulations to permit the extension of the final plat approval for 6 months for the Concord Hospitality, Inc. Unified Plat of Subdivision for 3 lots on property located at 1800 and 1806 West End Avenue and at 1801 and 1807 Hayes Street. And the staff recommendation is to approve the extension of the final plat to January 26, 2013. The next item is item 17. It's on page 9. It's a request for final plat approval to create 3 lots on properties located at 317B Fessler Lane and 319 Fessler's Lane, zoned IWD and partially located within the floodplain overlay district, and the staff recommendation is to approve. The next item is item 18, also on page 9. It is a request for final plat approval to create 2 lots on property located at 1709 Stokes Lane at the southeast corner of Stokes Lane and Stokes Mountain Road, and staff recommendation is to approve with conditions, including a variance to section 3-4.2A to allow for a non-radial lot line. The next item is item 20. And this is a request to amend the front setback along Breslin Road from 65 feet to 40 feet for property located at 6361 Breslin Road, and the staff recommendation is to approve. And now for the other business items on page 10. The first item, contract renewals for Scott Morton and Michael Briggs, and the recommendation is to approve. Item 19, employee contract for Dwayne Cuthbertson, and the staff recommendation is to approve. And finally, item 20, a contract between the Nashville Civic Design Center and the Nashville-Davidson County Metropolitan Planning Commission on behalf of the Nashville Area MPO for long-range plan and regional model public outreach activities, and the recommendation is to approve.
Thank you, Brenda. The items that have been requested by staff to be on consent are items 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21.
Mr. Chairman, I need to abstain on item 16.
Item 16? Okay.
And 22, 23.
22 and 23, okay. We're going to take, Andre?
I have a question too, but I think I just will because it's in my area, item 8.
So request for item 16 to be pulled.
No, I'm not saying to be pulled.
No, I'm
We're just
abstaining.
abstaining.
Oh, abstain, I'm
Those
sorry.
two.
Okay. You had a question?
I do have a question. I understand then that no one is here wishing to speak on item 8.
That's what I'm wondering.
They've had a chance, so I guess they're not.
Okay.
I did have one other question about that before. I'm not moving to knock it off necessarily, but I realize what the current zoning is and that it's CS and that this is to the automobile zoning. What is currently on that property?
There's a landscape business and a auto repair business
Right now?
right now, and doesn't have any sort of improvements, landscaping or anything like that, and this
Okay.
SP would actually introduce that.
All right, thank you.
18 in there, right? Okay.
I think I read, but the number's wrong. 19 was not on this one, but 21, 22, and 23 are on the consent. I read those
Okay,
off.
I'm going to go back over them just to make sure.
Okay.
So follow through with them and make sure that this is correct, because when we vote on them, I want to make sure we have officially covered them. So it's item 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23.
Not 19, that was
Not
deferred.
19. What is 19?
It was deferral.
Oh, deferred, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, you've heard the items to be on consent. Is there a motion? Motion second to approve on consent, all in favor? Okay, those items, any opposed? Those items are now, have been approved by the commission on consent.
And just for the record, abstaining on number 16 was Atkins and LaQuire.
No, 8.
Oh, 8, okay. One abstention on 8, LaQuire, and one on 16 was Atkins. Okay.
And for the audience, there'll be 2 public hearings, one on item 5, which is a zoning regulation on tasting rooms, and item 11 is on the village green apartments. Although the items have been approved or deferred. Brenda, go ahead with item 5 if you would.
Okay. All right, this is item 5 on your agenda, and this is a text amendment to permit tasting rooms as an accessory use in industrial districts. A tasting room would be defined as an area within a distillery, including an artisan distillery, or a brewery, including a microbrewery, which serves and sells products produced by the distillery or brewery in association with the tours of the facility. Nashville is seeing a number of new distilleries and breweries established in the industrial districts, and these businesses would like to be able to provide on-premise sampling of their products. Currently, this would be considered a bar under our code, and bars are not permitted in industrial districts. So what this text amendment would do would add a new use called tasting room, and it would be an accessory use to the distillery or the brewery. And in order to ensure that the tasting room remains an accessory use to the principal use, a number of development standards have been included in the text amendment. It talks, and these development standards talks about where the tasting room has to be, how you access the tasting room, the size of the tasting room, and under the size, there is an amendment that's being proposed which would, some of these uses when they start off, typically an accessory use is 10%, but some of these when they start off would be very tiny, and 10% wouldn't really give you a space to do a tasting room. So instead, we gave it a maximum square area of 1,500 square feet. And then in discussing that with other people who have larger breweries or distilleries, they thought that 1,500 may then not be enough for a bigger one, and so then we use the 10% standard of accessory uses that's in the code now, so whichever is greater would be the size that they'd be allowed to have. There's also standards for the hours of operation, signage, restricting that only the products produced by that distillery or brewery could be served. The federal law governing distilleries don't allow food to be served in the tasting room, but the rules of the beer board for Metro require a brewery to serve food, so I had to separate these two out so that one could serve food and one didn't need to serve food. And also a minimum of 5 parking spaces are required. So in conclusion, staff is recommending approval with amendments. There was a typo in the A standard and for C to add the additional 10% of the gross floor area.
Thank you, Brenda. This item is open for public hearing. The applicant will be allowed 10 minutes, and you can hold 2 minutes of that back for rebuttal if you like.
I think we're the applicant on this case.
You the applicant?
Yes. Well, not me.
Okay. It's open for public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the staff's recommendation?
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Scoville. I'm the head brewer of a new microbrewery we're hoping to start in our zoning district. First of all, I'd like to thank the Planning Commission for the opportunity to speak, and to Brenda for her hard work on putting together the amendment. Have y'all received a copy of an email that I sent to staff that requests a modification to this amendment?
If you'd tell us what that is.
Okay. The amendment currently restricts access to the tasting room portion of the brewery to, it can only be accessed from within the building. Breweries are manufacturing operations. They don't provide the level of safety required for open access by the public. There are sanitation concerns. There are insurance concerns with having the public be able to step into a manufacturing operation and walk through it to get to the tasting room. So what we're asking is that the access from the tasting room be allowed directly from the exterior so that people who want to come to the tasting room do not have to go through the manufacturing area. Typically, tours of the facility would be conducted under strict control, accompanied by members of the staff, the brewery staff, and we would want the tours to originate at the tasting room and not have to have people come through the area of brewing operations in order to sign up for a tour to go back through.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, we'll discuss it. We
okay.
appreciate that. We'll let other people speak, and then
certainly. Any questions?
They may be when we close the public hearing and then start discussion.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the staff's recommendation? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Is there a motion to close the public hearing? Motion second to close the public hearing. All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Stewart?
Well, I'd like to hear from the staff about the proposed amendment and the pros and cons of that.
This was written based on how other accessory uses are permitted in the code, and other accessory uses would require there not be an entrance to the street for the accessory use. It's part of the way the accessory use remains accessory and not becoming the principal use, and then the principal use becoming less important. And so this is typically the way our code addresses accessory uses, that you don't enter directly from the street, but you enter into the building proper, and then you can enter if it's a restaurant or retail or whatever the accessory use might be, and in this case, the tasting room. So you might imagine a office building that has a retail, a small tuck shop in it. You don't directly access that from the street. You have to go into the office building to go into the cafeteria or the small shop. That would be the same principle here.
Well, you heard some of the suggestions from the person who's bringing the amendment. Other than this is how we normally do other such things in non-brewery related situations. What are your thoughts on the policy issues here?
There are other options too, because a retail use is permitted as a conditional use here, and the retail use has no restrictions for access in an industrial district, and there would be a retail portion associated with the brewery, and they could enter the retail portion and then get to the tasting room through that. I don't know that it would have any safety concerns whether it comes in through the building or directly from the street. It's just the idea of making sure this remains an accessory use in the industrial district.
I'll listen.
Hunter?
It seems to me that size limitation is going to assure to some degree that it's an accessory use, and they're limited. I don't know. I'm not sure I follow or see any negative impact to having an entrance from the street. The hours of operation, is there anything in there about relative to the distillery versus the
D would restrict the hours of operation to when the brewery or distillery's operating schedule is in place. So you couldn't shut down your working day and keep your tasting room open.
Well, I'm out of sequence. Oh, well, never mind.
Well, most of these, I don't know when. I would assume distilleries. I don't know when they operate, but these tasting rooms. And we're not kidding anyone here. We're basically creating a place that's probably going to be used at night more times than. I would think that would be what the market would demand, tasting rooms to be open at night. Are we trying to? I don't know.
Well, the idea of putting the restriction of the hours is that it doesn't become a bar. What it is truly an accessory use to that brewery or distillery. Its operating hours are when the distillery or brewery operating hours are, and so it's part of the process of the whole microbrewery distillery, where you get to do a tour and taste the products that are produced.
Like in a winery.
Yeah, similar to a winery, yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I'm on the topic, it's why I'm jumping out of order, but it seems like, so for example, one we've had in Nashville is the little Yazoo room. Was that considered more of a bar in an industrial area? That's not the model? Is that?
They had the Yazoo bar that's now it's associated with the Corsair Distillery is actually zoned differently, so they could do a bar. So
the old one that was down at Marathon Village.
Yeah, that actually had CF zoning at the time, so a bar was a permitted use. It now has an SP with all the uses of the CF, and so it was allowed to have a bar, and if any distillery or microbrewery was in a zoning district that allowed a bar, then they would go and get permitted as a bar. And so this is really for those industrial districts where you don't want to keep expanding the sort of uses that can go in your industrial areas that you want to keep for industrial purposes, but allows them to do a complete package for the product they're producing.
So the reason you don't want to allow bars in industrial areas is to maintain a certain inventory of industrial property in Nashville for industrial uses? Is that, I'm trying to...
I think the thinking is that the more you dilute your industrial districts, then the less they are, you get viable industrial areas. So that introducing all new uses into those areas.
Bill?
The one thing that concerns me is control. If you got an outside door, anybody can come in there, right?
That's correct.
Is there going to be any hostess or something on the inside that controls who comes in or what they're going to be doing there? I mean, it's kind of like a restaurant/bar with there's food going to be available and so forth. So,
as I said earlier, if it's a microbrewery and they open this tasting room, the beer board says they must serve food, but under the federal laws for a distillery in the tasting room, you cannot serve food.
Okay.
So I don't know what individual establishments would choose, how they would choose to greet the public. I can't speak to that.
Okay.
Councilman?
So the tasting room idea came forward as a way to accommodate tours in the distilleries and the breweries. Is that?
It was also a way also to be able to have on-site samplings of the products that were produced. Because up until this point, you could have your distillery, and I don't think the tours would be something that would have been prohibited, but they wouldn't have been able to serve any of their products if they're in the industrial zoning districts right now.
So is it the spirit or the intent of the ordinance to accommodate tours and have them end with a tasting room experience?
I think it is. I think the intent really was to allow that sampling of the products on site, and it would be associated with the tour, because the tour is already would be permitted.
Right. I think it's a good idea to allow the tasting room, but having an outside entrance coming into the tasting room, I don't see that. I see we're creating a bar. If you're able to walk in off the street and taste the product that's there, and they're serving some kind of food, what's the difference in that in the bar? That's my thinking. I've, over the years, as traveling, been on tours in distilleries and breweries and so on, I don't know that I've ever gone into a tasting room that wasn't the end part of a tour. I mean, that's part of the whole experience. So I support the amendment as it's written, but I would not vote for the proposed amendment to allow an outside entrance. I don't see that it makes it any different than a bar.
Jeff? No comments. Greg? Andre?
Well, I would suggest maybe a different perspective on that, because I've been in wineries, for example, where it's an opportunity to taste the product and also purchase it. So if you're interested in purchasing the product, but you want to know what it is before you buy it, you have a chance to taste it. You may not necessarily want to go on a tour. So to have a separate entrance, my understanding is clearly if it's an entrance that they're going to have employees in there and they're going to be greeting the public, and it may be the first impression anybody gets of the place, they're going to be monitoring it and welcoming people and seeing who's coming and going. So I think the concern that just anybody can walk in and start drinking is that somebody's going to be pouring for them, and it's all a controlled setting when you have a tasting room. So I don't know why. I'm not sure if the outside entrance needs to be such a concern, because it's going to be staffed, and it's an opportunity to come in and purchase a product and have a chance to taste it and have the tour or not have the tour. I think the safety issues of person brought up is of interest. I mean, if the building allowed for sort of a little sub-lobby that you could come into and then walk into the tasting room from there, would that answer it without saying that it has to, I mean, it just depends on where it sits on the property and in the building. It's hard to know.
That's correct. There's nothing that would say that you had to put it right inside with the manufacturing, that you couldn't step in a lobby and then step into it.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask the applicant?
Go ahead, Greg.
I guess I need to ask the applicant. I mean, that is a good point. Where'd the applicant go?
He's not the applicant.
We're the applicant.
Oh, we're the applicant.
We're the applicant,
He's one
yes.
of the businesses who this would affect.
You can ask a question.
Can I ask myself a question? I'm just kidding.
You can ask him the question if you like.
Yeah, I guess I could ask him. Is there, I guess, is the physical building, is it, does it prohibit do they really need a separate entrance? Or is it, would it prohibit the start of the brewery? Or could they add that?
The particular building that we envision using, that restriction would be a significant hardship because of the configuration of the existing building.
Okay, thank you. I think having a separate entrance, I'm okay with that myself, as long as, it's not, you're not, and I think the distinguishing thing that's not a bar is you're not selling it per glass. You're selling, you're having a taste and then buying a larger jug of it or buying a 6-pack to take home, just like every other brewery in town. So a separate entrance to me, I think the safety factors of not going into the main area where you're brewing it is an important factor. So I think a separate entrance on the outside. And I really think that Commissioner Gee brought up a really good point, is that it's going to be a side use because of the size of the building. It's not going to be the main use. I think that's probably the best point that I've heard so far. So.
Other comments or a motion? Councilman.
Of all the businesses that this will potentially affect in the city, have any others requested an outside entrance?
I don't believe so specifically to me. I didn't get, it's been mostly a correspondence between the two of us that has helped shape this text amendment. One thing I could point out that if there's always an ability to get a variance from a requirement of the zoning code from the BZA. If the building wouldn't permit the inside entrance, it would be possible also to go for a variance to that requirement.
So you said something earlier that I've forgotten how you said it. You talked about a small retail space.
That's correct. In an industrial zoning district, you're allowed to do retail as permitted with conditions use, and most of the breweries and distilleries also are likely to want to sell some products like T-shirts, glasses, and that there's no restrictions on how you get into that portion of the tasting room. And when I spoke with the zoning administrator about the concern that was raised, he said that if it was a retail first and then the tasting room came after that, he wouldn't consider that you were entering the tasting room directly from the street. You'd be entering it through the retail portion.
But the retail spaces in the industrial area is, you said earlier, is considered an accessory use.
No, it's permitted with conditions.
Permitted with conditions.
And the conditions limit the size.
Do they limit you said something about an exterior?
Yeah, you can have. There's no restrictions on how you enter the retail space.
To get into the retail space, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so if we've got a distillery or a brewery and they're producing a product that, to your comment, Commissioner Wire, that they're going to sell that in a retail portion of the building, right?
They might sell it in the room where you're having the tasting. I don't exactly where they sell it, but they can sell a bottle of their liquor, yes.
Okay, so would the tasting room and the retail space could that be the same?
It could be in the same square footage, yes.
Okay.
I guess that's why I was saying I felt like the entrance could be separate because it's a combination environment that's, it has retail in it, and somebody might want to come in there and not necessarily take the tour, and they may initiate tours there. It's also a place where people who don't want to take tours can still go.
So you could have an outside entrance then if the condition was that the tasting room and the retail space were all the same.
Yeah, and essentially the layout would be that you would first enter the retail portion and then you would move to the tasting portion.
I think that's where most of the winery tasting places are, aren't they?
A lot of it goes. Mr. Claiborne had some where you end the tour in a tasting room you've never seen before, and others you can go independently to the tasting room without the tour. It just depends.
Hunter?
Yeah, most of the wineries I've been in, you walk right into the tasting room. As a matter of fact, that's the main entrance, and the distiller or the facilities beyond that. If our point is to prevent bars, then we probably ought to just vote this whole thing down, because I don't think an entrance from the outside of the building is going to necessarily prevent anyone from going and having drinks and or any of the negative impacts of a bar. I don't think there's anything in this ordinance that's going to prevent that. So one, we could be forcing people to go through an extra step of the BZA if they want to. So I don't see really any negative impacts of having the ability to enter directly into any different than if you were entering from the actual facility. So
May I make a motion?
Okay.
I move that we accept it with the proposed amendment to allow an entrance from the outside directly.
Hey, repeat that again.
I move that we accept the amendment. We approve the text amendment with the proposed amendment to allow an entry directly from the outside.
Or really, it would be to delete the requirement that it have the entry be from the outside.
So delete B.
Delete B, please. That would be mine.
We've got a motion, second. Any other comments? All in favor of the motion to amend to delete the requirement that it come through the manufacturing area? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Let me see a show of hands. All in favor? Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just always proud to recognize the extreme level of experience we have on the commission with all these things. I personally have no knowledge of any of this.
Okay, Brenda, we're ready for item number 11.
This is item 11 on your agenda, and this is a request to rezone property at 2215 Abbott Martin Road from RM20 to specific plan residential. The property is shown in red, and staff is recommending approval with conditions and disapproval without all conditions. The property is currently zoned RM20, which allows a residential units at a density of 20 units per acre, and the SP would permit up to 90 multifamily units. The land use policy is Regional Activity Center, which is a concentrated mixed-use policy anchored by a regional mall, and in this case, it's the Green Hills Mall. And the proposed SP is consistent with this policy as the policy calls for higher density residential uses. This is the plan. There are currently 4 buildings on the property with 36 residential units. There are 18 units in 2 buildings that will remain, and a new building with up to 72 units is being proposed. Parking will be within a structure. Access is from Abbott Martin across a portion of property under the same ownership, but it's not included in this SP. And there's also a connection to the Y. That connection to the Y, I'm sorry, that was a pedestrian connection. This proposal also meets some critical planning goals, including creating walkable neighborhoods. As you can see, it's in easy walking distance of the mall, of a Kroger's grocery store, of the YMCA, in fact has connection to the YMCA, and the HG Health Center, just to name a few. It also provides a range of housing choices. This area is predominantly single-family, and this higher density multifamily units near the regional center is an appropriate use. And staff is recommending approval with conditions and disapproval with all conditions, and including also the conditions that are in front of you from the Public Works Department, the revised conditions. Those are also the conditions of approval.
Thank you. Item open for public hearing. An applicant will be allowed 10 minutes. You can keep 2 of that back for rebuttal if you like.
Thank you. My name is John Gore. I'm with Barge, Cawthon & Associates Civil Engineers. I'm going to give you a brief introduction of the project, and then we have several other members from our team that will discuss different aspects of the project. As Brenda said, this is a fairly small project. It's 2.29 acres, and it's a request for 54 additional units. We've worked closely with different metro departments, including Public Works, the Fire Marshal, planning staff, stormwater, to meet their approval. So we feel good about the plan and where we are now with the plan. We feel like this is a great project, as Brenda mentioned, for several reasons. First, it does fit the policy well. The existing regional activity center is very close to existing jobs, services, amenities. It's close to existing transit networks and other roadway multimodal transportation systems. And the last thing is it's existing completely impervious developed site. So it's not a greenfield site. We're actually reducing impervious area because as you can see, the site is pretty much 100% buildings and parking as it is now. So we've worked hard. We'll be glad to answer any questions you got. And like I say, we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amy Birch. I'm with RPM Transportation Consultants. I'm the traffic engineer working on this project, the Village Green Apartments. We prepared a traffic impact study for the project in accordance with Metro Public Works guidelines. The study has been reviewed and approved by Metro's traffic engineer. Our analyses determined that the net increase of 54 units, apartment units, will generate a relatively low amount of new traffic, and therefore will have a minor impact on the existing roadway network and surrounding study intersections. We expect the additional traffic generated by the Village Green Apartments to increase the traffic on Abbott Martin Road by less than 2%. Our analyses also accounted for future traffic that will be generated by the unconstructed developments along Bedford Avenue. And this includes the new hotel, which is planned along the northern part of Bedford Avenue. Our capacity analyses and Q analyses results indicate that there's just 2 to 3 second increase in delay due to the project, which is a very minor increase in delay. And in fact, the level of service at Abbott Martin Road and Cleghorn Avenue and Hillsborough Circle, which is a signalized intersection adjacent to the project site, that intersection is expected to operate at level of service C in the AM and level of service D in the PM, which is an acceptable level of service. In summary, we feel that this 54-unit increase for the project site is a minor increase in delay and a minor impact to the roadway network. I'm happy to answer any questions and appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak here. My name is John Abernathy. I'm a partner in Dade. We have been retained as the architect for this project. As of right now, we're looking at a building massing that will largely sit in the footprint of the 2 existing structures that are on the southernmost end of the property, and you can see on the site plan that's in front of you. Because of the topography and how this property sits, the the nursing home that's to the east of the property that you see the long bar building will obscure this building from Hillsborough Circle almost entirely, as well as then to the west, the stand of trees that you see also really keeps what could be, a relatively massive building from dominating the streetscape. So we really feel like that this is an appropriate insertion. The building will fit within the allowable building envelope for RM40. So if we were, which is sort of our base, looking for a base zone as an RM40. Exterior materials that we're looking at right now are masonry, they're brick, and they're ground-faced concrete block, some fiber cement siding, and to kind of be a good neighbor, especially to the residential, to the houses off to the west, we're looking at an asphalt or fiberglass shingle roof, not a flat roof, so that again, it's going to appeal residential in nature as opposed to just a massive building. And appreciate the opportunity to speak today and for your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, Sean Henry, 315 Dedrick Street. I represent the property owner, Mr. Brent Smith. He's here in the front row. He's investing $12 million here to only develop a part of this site, the very back part of this site. The overall density is well within and below the regional activity center densities that are recommended in the Green Hills Community Plan. And the adjacent, these densities are far less than the adjacent Tennessee Teachers Apartment Tower, which is 13 stories and 65 dwelling units per acre. That building was built in 1964 or thereabouts. The subject property was built in 1967. And we've got negligible traffic increase requiring no off-site improvements. This development will result in more than doubling the property tax revenue for Metro. This is a smart growth project. It's at the right location within the regional activity center boundary and without adding any additional land area. So within the existing land boundary of this property, we're trying to go up in intensity, up in density, and that's becoming increasingly difficult in the Green Hills community. So without having to add additional land area, simply trying to intensify the apartment options in Green Hills on this particular site. We're encouraged by Councilman Carter Todd, who wants to have a neighborhood meeting. We hope we can do that in the month of August before the public hearing in September. We ask that you approve this as recommended by staff, and we would like an opportunity to rebut any comments that come next. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from your team? You've got 3 minutes and 4 seconds left. If you want to hold, you can hold back a maximum of 2 minutes. Okay. Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak in support of the applicant?
Good afternoon. My name is Erica Garrison. I'm here as a lawyer on behalf of Waller, Lanston, Dorch, and Davis, and one of our clients, H.G. Hill Realty, is asking us to attend in support of this project. You have letters from H.G. Hill Realty already in support of this project. We hope that you approve it. It's consistent with the community plan. It provides additional residential options, which are very much needed in the Green Hills commercial core area, and it's a pedestrian-friendly project. So we hope that you approve it. We think it's great for the community, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Good afternoon. I'm a property owner in Abbotsford. It's off Abbott Martin Road. I've been there about 5 years. I'm well aware of the plans for Village Greens. I've went and talked to the owners as a just concerned citizen of that area. While I've lived in Green Hills, I am aware also of the traffic situation that's going on. In my mind, when I look through it, I can see everything mostly positive. The beautification of the area is a 1960s era, as previously stated. This unit built in 1967. I've seen the architectural plans of it. It brings it up to modern standards. The parking's underground. The property value I see also helping me and other people of Green Hills bringing this in with revenue and taxes. The other thing about the negative of the traffic is maybe it's a little hypocritical of me, because living in Abbotsford, there's over 170 homes in there, all zero lot lines. In today's is what we're talking about, I may not even be there. So we're talking about, as they said, approximately 50 units. The other thing, too, maybe an analogy is someone buying a home at the airport, and once you get in there, you go to the airport and say, you know, there's too much noise here. Can you do something about it? So with all the things, I say mostly positive. I don't see much negative of it, and I approve of the rezoning request.
Thank you. Anyone else speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
Speaking on behalf of...
Good. No, come forward and just, got 2 minutes, just give us your name and address if you would.
My name is Jim Ritchie. I live in the area for about a little under 10 years. I live on Estes Road. I'm also self-employed and run the area of Green Hills quite a bit. Biggest, I guess, concern about the traffic, I see this is getting traffic off the streets. One of the biggest things for me is traveling that area and having to fight traffic with the walkability that Village Green Hills has. It minimizes the amount of traffic coming in and going out. But with Village Green Hills, of course, it's currently there now. I don't see this as much of a change as I do in an improvement. I'm all for the change.
Come ahead and give us your name.
Thank you. I have lived in Green Hills all my life.
Give us your name, please.
Pardon?
Your name, please.
My name, Vivian Hines.
Okay.
I have property adjacent to this new proposal. The council was wise the last time this was proposed by striking it down, and I believe it should be struck down this time. We already have a bad gridlock of traffic there. The retired teachers building is next door, and there are very old people there that have difficulty in walking. Now, the thing is, if we see more traffic there, that'll, with 90 units, that's about 180 to 200 more cars in delivery. And they did change the traffic there by approving the turn signal on red at the southwest corner there, which helps a little bit of the traffic now. But anyway, I deliver Meals on Wheels every day. This is the 13th year. I'm out on the road every day, and I see this traffic constantly. And with that much more traffic, it's going to be very hazardous to old people or anybody walking through there. Now, I grew up on Chise Hill, so I have seen this all develop and redevelop and graduated from Hillsborough, etc. But this is not a sound move to increase more people in this area. We already have this problem, and I just feel as if I'm here representing so many of the people in this area that are bitterly opposed to it but cannot come down or do not want to show up like myself. But anyway, thank you so much, and I do hope that you folks will understand. If you've ever traveled through Green Hills and everybody has said, gee whiz, that traffic is horrible, it will only increase and just be dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else speak in opposition?
Good afternoon. I'm Charlotte Cooper, 3409 Trimble Road. I have given much thought and consideration to this project before coming to my decision to oppose it. And the two major factors involved are density and traffic. More density causes more traffic, and simply put, Green Hills has too much traffic. Village Green has a single, narrow, almost hidden entrance exit that sits near two traffic light intersections, and this tends to cause traffic to back up past the apartment's entrance. Today, when I was traveling here on Hillsborough Circle, it took me 15 minutes to get out of Green Hills going through that intersection. In reviewing the staff report supporting this project, I was concerned with what was not there. The report referred to Green Hills as primarily single-family. Well, this is not exactly true. Green Hills has many hundreds of multi-family units consisting of condos, townhomes, and even the old-fashioned traditional duplexes. The report mentions RAC policy, but leaves out one of the major factors, accessibility. RAC should be close to an interstate. The Green Hills RAC is about 2 miles from I-440. Daily bumper-to-bumper stop traffic sits on Hillsborough Road between I-440 and the mall. RACs should be serviced by major arterial and ringed by an arterial network. The only major road is Hillsborough Road. Collector streets ring the Green Hills RAC. An RAC should have the highest level of mass transit. I rarely see buses in Green Hills except in front of Hillsborough High School in the afternoon. Until you experience the Green Hills traffic on a daily basis at different times of the day, during the weekend, and during the holiday shopping season, you cannot appreciate or understand the problems. Adding 46 additional units will add more traffic to an already highly congested area. In addition, the new proposed hotel on Bedford will add even more. We do not need more traffic. Please vote no.
Thank you.
Hi, Bartley McGeehee. I live on Kenway Road, very close to this development. Much of my opposition is not directly geared towards this proposal because I haven't heard much about it until tonight. But in general, I think Charlotte touched on a number of my points. If we look back historically, this area was designated a regional activity center, and it really shouldn't have been. If you look at the other RACs designated in Davidson County, they're all serviced by an interstate and multiple, in most cases, arterial streets. We have one, and it's taxed. I mean, if you look at the levels of service along Hillsborough Road, if they're calling a level of service D acceptable, I would say that's subpar, and certainly we're not moving in the right direction. Specific to this piece of property, my concerns are everybody says it's consistent with the community plan. If you look closely at the 2005 community plan, they designate areas for increased densification, and they are not in this area. In fact, this area is specifically excluded from the overlay discussing areas where they encourage density. There are areas designated further south and further east where they plan for special rules areas where you plan for increased density. Also, to address the analogy of the airport moving in and then asking them to change the traffic, I think that requesting a zoning change on property that you purchase or obtain development rights and then expect to change those rights is the same thing. You accept the conditions of the property when you purchase it, and you plan accordingly. And I'm firmly in opposition to really any increased density that requires a meeting of this type and of your vote. I think every opportunity that you have to affect the zoning is an opportunity to stand back and say, is this really what Green Hills is supposed to be? And we've designated it an area of a higher level of density than it has the capacity to hold. And my analogy would be that we're trying to pour 2 gallons of water into an 8-ounce cup, and it just can't hold it. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, then you've got 2 minutes left for your rebuttal. And before you start that, would you clarify how many units are there now and what the proposed unit increase is?
There's 36 dwelling units there today. The existing zoning would allow 45 dwelling units. The application states 90 dwelling units. The building those designed for 82. So we'll probably amend the bill at council to reduce that from 90 to 82.
You've got an increase of how many units then? 46?
54.
No.
It's
46.
46.
There now of a net add. 37 above what we're allowed to build on as far as density is concerned.
So you could build, you're asking for an increase of 46, you could by right go in and build an additional 9.
Correct, that's correct. So as far as density is concerned, we're only increasing it by 37 units.
Are you changing any from a single family to 2 bedrooms or 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom?
Everything we're doing, in fact, I'm glad you brought that up. Currently we have 8 3-bedroom units. We're going to remove 8 3-bedroom units and replace those with new 3-bedroom units. So there's no increase in the number of 3-bedroom units that we have now. And everything else we have is 2-bedroom, and that's all we're doing in the future is 2-bedroom. We have no 1-bedrooms on the property now, nor will we.
Okay, go ahead with your, let's start there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of comments. The concern over traffic gridlock density and I guess more traffic. The traffic impact study that was generated here was barely required under our metro zoning code. But the applicant nonetheless performed a traffic impact study that's been approved by the Public Works Department with conditions. One of those conditions is to widen the driveway out to 24 feet, and that would accommodate part of the concern that we just heard from a speaker. Secondly, the driveway needs to be realigned slightly so that it lines up with the driveway across the street directly across the street. It's some of the chicken and the egg conversation that you all get virtually every Planning Commission meeting. Are we going to increase density so that we have better chance of getting mass transit and effective mass transit, or are we going to stay stuck in the 60s, which these developments are? I mean, the real question here, are we going to grow within the existing boundaries of the Regional Activity Center, or are we going to stay stuck in the 1960s? So we respectfully submit that the staff's done a good job of reviewing the proposal. We think it's a smart growth proposal, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could add one item to this. The previous application that we did years ago for Valerie Crossings was for 250 units. It was a massive rezoning of that. I personally held numerous neighborhood meetings, met with just about every person who lives in Green Hills, and got feedback from every single one of them. The one constant I heard from every single person was, Brent, can you make it smaller? And we don't want to amend the community plan. The proposal in front of you does both of the things that was requested of me numerous times from everyone I met with. Make it smaller. We're only adding 37 units of density to this as opposed to 250 before. Keep it within the community plan. We're exactly in the land use policy in the community plan. So we have done everything that was asked of us of the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else in opposition, if you line up behind the microphone?
My name is Alicia Brim. I live at 3933 Cross Creek Road. And besides the obvious factor of traffic concerns, my property is across the street behind the proposed project, the dead end side. I have a horrible time getting out onto Abbott Martin on a daily basis. It takes me 15 minutes to go to my house to the post office in Green Hills because of the traffic. And a lot of that is due to the Hill Center development. I've lived in Green Hills my entire life. I've been at my property for 21 years, and I've never seen anything like it. It's a nightmare there. I didn't want to repeat anybody else's sentiment here, but with the development that he proposed a few years ago, it was going to affect the property across the street from my property, the whole line of homes. Excuse me. And he had proposed to buy out all of those homes to include in this 200-plus development. I'm worried that this will open the door for another development down the road, which would increase density, even more. And that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, is a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion second, close the public hearing. All in favor, aye. Aye. Public hearing is now closed. Jeff.
I think there's a reason that folks like Nordstrom's and Container Store and all the tenants at Hill Center continue to move to Green Hills, and I think we need to support appropriate densification. Sounds like the applicant has listened to the neighborhood over a very arduous 3-year process, reduced the size of his development. I think this is going to be fabulous, so I'm in support of it.
Greg.
Well, I think, it's pedestrian friendly. I live in the Creve Hall area. We're probably part of the traffic problem reason over there because I think us Creve Hallians drive over there and use the mall. And a solution could be maybe move the mall to Creve Hall, but, that's not at stake here. So, it meets the policy, and I understand the arguments on the opposite end. But, we're here from a planning perspective, and I think that the developer has done a good job from if you look at the project from a planning perspective, it has everything that it should have. It's pedestrian friendly, which you could argue could produce less cars for local trips. It reduces the amount of pavement in the area. It's a reasonable density increase, I think, especially if you consider the previous project. So from a planning perspective, it's hard not to vote for it. So for me, I'm definitely for it. I think it's a good thing for the area. A lot of young professionals and can use this type of housing because it's a hot area. So I understand the arguments on the opposite side, but from a planning perspective, I think it's absolutely an awesome plan. Now, does that satisfy what the folks in the area don't like it? That's more of a policy issue that the councilman will have to deal with on the council. So,
Andre.
Yeah, I concur. I think it's an exciting project. I think we do need to consider density in order to get transit that we want to alleviate traffic. It's what we all struggle with when we try and look for how we can encourage more transit. I think having mixed opportunities for living in different scales for people with different incomes is really good for this area too. It allows people who work there, work at the mall or different places to walk to work or walk to the Y to exercise. I appreciate the owner's letter to us that talks about the experience that they've had with the different residents there, that they let their lease out if they go buy a house in the neighborhood. So they're encouraging people to grow in the neighborhood into single family residences even. It's a diversity, I think, that will be good there, and otherwise I concur with what Jill said. I'm excited about it. And I understand the traffic sensibility. I drive through there all the time, but I do think we have got to have density in order to get the transit that we're all hoping for.
Councilman.
I just have a question to clarify about the building. There are two buildings presently in the footprint, and they're going to be torn down and replaced by a new building.
That's correct. This is what's there now. You can see these two buildings are staying, and these two buildings will be torn down and replaced.
Okay. So we're not increasing a footprint significant.
That's correct, because the parking that now is in place there will be going underground.
Okay. And in one of the early comments, somebody said something about the water.
It said the actual decrease in imperviousness, because it's basically because of the surface parking paved property line to property line now. So that just making the point that it's a previously developed site, so it's not increasing runoff and flooding.
Okay, so you're not, okay, that's what I was trying to get at. I didn't know if you said you were going to use pervious pavement as opposed to impervious or.
Most of the new new development is building, and the other section of the pavement we probably wouldn't, because the fire marshal was very adamant about having a turn around there for fire trucks, so we probably need to stick with regular asphalt there.
Okay.
But it is a net increase.
Just clarifying that. I agree with Councilman Atkins' comments that, this meets all of the planning gates that we're trying to meet as we look at different developments. And the traffic increase based on the study here is very minimal. The only negative thing I see about this is I would have liked to have seen the public been engaged before we got to this point. I think some of their questions could have been asked and answered before we came here. Some of those questions, you could have gotten rid of some of your opposition, perhaps. It's always good to do that, I think. But anyway, I'm supportive of it. I don't see any major drawbacks.
Phil?
Wonderful project, great presentation. I think it'll be an asset, particularly the walkability factor, and I'm in favor.
Hunter?
I agree with all the comments so far. I have two questions. One, the parcel that's not included up on Abbott Martin Road, I may have missed this in the presentation, but is that in the floodplain?
Yes, it is, and there's a stream running across it.
Okay, so what's its current zoning? And I mean, is it even built? Is there any?
There you can see the floodplain going across it. It's the current zoning is RM20, but it would be very difficult to build on that. And my understanding is the intention is to leave it as it is.
Okay. And then my second question is, could you point out in the site plan the pedestrian connections?
Yes, the pedestrian connection, there's one here, and this takes you to the MCA, and then the other connections, of course, are onto Abbott Martin.
So there's a sidewalk along the entry drive there out to, is that Abbott Martin?
That's correct.
Okay. There's no other
Connection also takes you over to Hill Center through the sidewalks they have.
If there's no, I'm sorry, I'm about to skip over you, make a motion. Go ahead.
Stuart.
It is an old issue, and there is no clear answer to the transit issue. There is no question about the near gridlock nature of this area. You know, I live close to Blair and 21st, and I go to Green Hills a lot via Belmont. I go that far out of the way to go out there, and so do a lot of people, because it's not good, and it's not going to be easily remedied by some modest increase in bus traffic. That's the sad news. On the other hand, it is absolutely, and this is something that divides the community. I know some people hear density and they think that's great. These are people who are living inside this county where they work and play and shop, and that's good for the environment and that's good for community. And other people cannot get that at all because of how it impacts their life. And that's understandable too. All of which is to say it's not a win-win for everyone. And I certainly understand the disbelief some of you are probably hearing from this discussion. I am actually for the rezoning as well, even with all those reservations, because of my belief that it actually is good for this community overall. And while it doesn't sound good to those of you close to it, it is probably a better place in the Green Hills area for this increased density than most any other place. So I would move we approve staff recommendation.
Second. Motion second to approve staff recommendations. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Hunter, you got anything from historic?
No report.
Okay. Bill, anything from parks?
I just wanted to mention that there's lots of activities going on this summer, all the different parks, and they're free, basically, so take advantage of that, please. Our next regular meeting will be at August the 7th at noon at the Parks facility.
Councilman, anything you want to bring us from the courthouse?
I don't have anything to report from the courthouse, but I would invite you to District 15 this coming Saturday evening at 7 o'clock, Two Rivers Mansion. We're having music at the mansion. This is bluegrass night, so
that's this Saturday?
Bring your lawn chair, your blanket, come early. There's a caterer that has great food, so I'd like to see.
And what time will that start?
7 to 10.
7 to 10 at Two Rivers.
Two Rivers Mansion, 3130 McGavick Pike.
Everybody out in the TV land, take note. Great venue. There is no report from the executive committee, so executive director's report.
Just a couple of things. Dwayne Culverton's with us. Dwayne, you want to say hi? Dwayne, y'all just approved a short-term contract for him, but Dwayne's had a lot of experience in land development. He's been a planner for about 10 years. He worked the last 7 years in the Tulsa area in the area of land development. He's worked in form-based codes. He got his master's from the University of Oklahoma, and he is now working with Bob and Brenda in land development, trying to help them out and help the community out. So he had started working with us a little bit last year, or last fiscal year, on some of the research on the general plan. So we're glad to have Dwayne here. With regard to the general plan, we are in the process of kind of creating our office in the courthouse. We're in the middle of that, I guess. We have offices and we have some desks, and they're hooking up computers and stuff now. So hopefully, we're kind of, some of us are here at this complex, and some of us are at the courthouse, and some of us are back and forth. So
Where are you going to be over there?
we are down across from children and youth, right on the first floor down there.
Keeping a close watch on there.
Yeah, well, it's a good location, good opportunity to get a lot of things done. We have started doing some presentations. I was out in Bellevue earlier this month at the Exchange Club doing a discussion with them about the general plan. All of you should note you do have copies of the Zender and McElroy presentations, and I think each one of them around 30 to 45 minutes, but I thought they were very, hopefully you will find them to be very informative. We are continuing work to finish up the Antioch plan. We've got our last general community meeting will be next month, August 30th, at which time we'll present the kind of the results of all the work with them. And we're continuing to update the Antioch website with videos and stuff going on. We had a first open house. I know Phil was here. There's several of you, and Jim was here. I know on the fairgrounds the other night. That was kind of an initial meeting that will then lead to the development of some alternatives as we kind of go through that process. Ann's kind of coordinating that. So I think that's pretty much all I have.
I wanted to say thanks to the staff for these administrative approval updates. These are really helpful.
Oh, good.
Any other comments from commissioners? Stand adjourned.
What is the evergreen at Worthing?
I don't, Bob would know.